is Monday, Yud Daled Nisan, Erev Pesach, Tovshin Gimel. We are in Torah's Menachem, Sefer Maamar Tovshin Aleph Tovshin Beis. The Maamar of Shavuos Tovshin Alpayim Shana. We are on page Tzadik Hey. The Rebbe here is discussing 5 levels in Torah. Well, say it's 5 levels in Torah. Torah is Torah, but like everything else in Seder Sha'ashuim, there are levels. There are things as they are on a higher level, and there are things as they are at a lower level. So in Torah as well, there are levels. And the Rebbe basically says that in Mishlei, chapter 8, there are 2 psukim, Pasuk Lamed and Lamed Aleph, where there are 5 expressions concerning Torah. And we've determined that these 5 expressions actually refer to 5 levels of Torah, and in descending order, meaning to say that the first statement is referring to the highest level of Torah, and the last statement is referring to the lowest level of Torah. These 5 statements are Va'ehyeh etzli amein, I was nursing beside him. Statement 1. Va'ehyeh Sha'ashuim yom yom, and I was a delight every day. Misachek is the fun, that's 2. Misachek is the fun of Bechol Eis, playing before him at all times, that's 3. Misachek is b'sevel artzei, playing in the habitable world of his earth, is 4. V'sha'ashu I es b'nei Adam, and my delights with the children of man is 5. The Rebbe went into all of this because on the first statement, Va'ehyeh etzli amein, we have 2 issues with that. Number 1, it is translated as meaning a nursling, as we just said, but in another medrash, it is translated as a fashioning tool, as a crafting tool with which Hashem created the world. World and creation of the world would seem to denote the very lowest level of Torah. Torah as a fashioning tool for the world would seem to be the very lowest level. And yet, here it is as the first statement in the Pasuk. So the Rebbe says both of them are linked, in fact. And we'll see how. After the Rebbe will explain the 5 levels, we'll see how it works out well, both the nursling aspect of it and the fashioning tool aspect of it. The other problem we had was that the Chazal say the Torah precedes the world by 2,000 years, meaning by level. And the Rebbe explained that meaning that Torah is related to the intellect, Chochmah and Bina, whereas the world is related to Midos. So therefore it is at a higher level. So the question was, why do Chazal focus in on the second aspect in the Pasuk, Va'ehyeh Sha'ashuim yom yom, rather than focusing on Va'ehyeh etzli amein? So because of this, the Rebbe started explaining that there are these 5 aspects in Torah which are enumerated in this Pasuk, and the Rebbe started explaining what they are. So the first one of Va'ehyeh etzli amein the Rebbe explained is Torah as it is bound up with the very essence of Hashem, Atzmus. Torah kfi shehi ba'atzmus is Torah as it is at the level of Atzmus. The second aspect that the pasuk mentions, Sha'ashuim yom yom, that is Torah as it is. It relates to Mochin, the level of Mochin, Chochmah and Bina. And here, the Rebbe began to focus on the idea, why does it say Sha'ashuim? If we are talking about Mochin, intellect, Sha'ashuim, delight, seems more to be connected to what? To Tainuk, to pleasure. Why use the expression Sha'ashuim? That's more or less where we're up to. So we'll back up a little bit. On page Tzadik Daled, on the bottom, the last line, the last 4 words on the line by the full stop. O b'bchina zu, concerning this level, the level of Torah as it is, at the level of Chochmah, Torah as it is at the level of Chochmah and Bina, intellect, concerning this level, Ne'amar Loshen Sha'ashuim, the pasuk says, the expression of Sha'ashuim, delight. And as an aside, the Rebbe points out, Afshalei Nema Sha'ashuai, although it doesn't say my delight, Hashem's delight, which is actually the expression the Pasuk uses when it talks about the very lowest level, Sha'ashuim, Sha'ashuim would denote that it means the Sha'ashuim, the delight as they are, as at the very essence of Hashem. So here it doesn't say Sha'ashuim, Ki'im Sha'ashuim Stam. All it says is delight, Stam, without denoting that it is Sha'ashuim at the level of Atzmus, because indeed it's not at the level of Atzmus. The Rebbe is going to explain later the difference between Sha'ashu'ai and Sha'ashu'im. But the point over here is, nonetheless, Torah is referred to as Sha'ashu'im, which means delight, which is more related to the level of Tainug. In the Koiches HaNefesh, in the powers of the soul, which is a mirror image of the divine attributes, Tainug is the highest level. That's Pnimius HaKeser, the inner dimension of Keser. Rotzen is Chitzenis HaKeser, the outer dimension of Keser. Then you have Mochin, Chachma Bin and Das. And then you have Midos, the 6 Midos, Chesed Gvura Tiferes Netzach Yisod. And then you have Malchus, right? So here we are talking about Torah at the level of Mochin, at Chachma, level of Chachma Bina. And nevertheless, we use the expression Sha'ashuim, which seems to be related to a level higher than intellect.
You mean to say a mirror image? Mirror image is opposite.
I didn't mean opposite. I mean to say that it's
repetition.
A repetition, yeah, a template, yeah. Ki gam kfi sha'Torah b'bchinas ha'mochin yesh ba inyan ha'tainug. Why indeed does the pasuk refer to Torah at the level of Mochin, with the intellect, with the expression Sha'ashuim tainug, pleasure? Because Torah, even at the level of intellect, has within it a aspect of pleasure. Why? It's known that our sages say, there's a saying from our sages in the Zayar, is Eraisa mechachma nafkes. Torah comes out mechachma, from chachma. So in Chassidus, Chassidus points out that the choice of words over here is nafkes. Comes out from chachma. What does that mean? It denotes that Chachma is the channel, if you will, through which Torah is revealed, but actually Torah is rooted beyond Chachma. Torah is rooted higher than Chachma. Chachma, of course, is intellect, right? Mochin. Beyond Chachma, as we just mentioned, is what? Rotzen and Tainug, right? The levels of Keser. So Chazal say, Eraisa mechachma nafkes, literally meaning Torah comes out from Chachma. Nafkes daike comes out, specifically, the choice of words comes out. Why? Shagilu shalat means to denote, it means to stress that the revelation of Torah, Chachma. Torah is revealed through what? Through Chachma. Avol sharsha, but the source of Torah, hu l'mayla me'achachma, is beyond Chachma. What is that? B'chinas ha'tainik shalamayla. It's rooted in the celestial pleasure, meaning to say, pnimis ha'keser. Right? So therefore, therefore, even when Torah comes and is revealed, comes down and is revealed in the intellectual faculties of, or intellectual levels of Chachma and Bina, yesh ba'inyan ha'sha'ashuim, it has within it the aspect of Sha'ashuim, pleasure, tainug. So Sha'ashuim refers to Torah at the level of Mochin, right? Which has within it Tainuk. That's why it's referred to as Sha'ashuim. Another point. So that's so far as Chachma is concerned. But we said what? That when we talk about Torah at the level of Mochin, the Rebbe mentioned Chachma and Bina. What is the connection between Tainug and Bina? Tainug and Bina. Now we explained the connection between Tainug and what? And Chachma. It writes about Chachma and Afkes, but it expresses something which is beyond it from Tainug. What about Bina? The revelation of pleasure is specifically in Bina. Kemaimer, as the Zohar says, his galus atik bebina. Where does atik reveal itself, find its revelation, find its expression? In Bina. What's atik, as mentioned before, the level of atik yomin, is the level of pnimis hakeser, the inner dimension of keser. Vizehu mashakosov. This is also that which it says in the pasuk of Avad Levi Hu, and this Levi will do his work, will serve Hashem. Why does it say who? Could have easily said Avad Halevi. Says again the Zayar do Atika. This is a reference to Atik. Levi was what? Which level was Levi? Which kav? Gvura, right? Kav is small. Kain is Chesed. Levi is Gvura. And which line is Bina? Which kav is Bina? Also kav is small. So Levi is connected to Bina. Who? When you say Avad Halevi, who says the Zayar? The word who is a reference to Atik, the inner dimension of Kesef, Tainuk. She is Galus Atik Hu Bebina. The Avad Levi Hu is another way of saying that Atik reveals itself in Bina. That through the Aveda of the Levi reveals Atik in Bina. That's what Avad Levi Hu means. Bina is also in the Keva. Right? Ema Bonim Smecha, that's the idea of Bina. So Bina is Mekabel to Chochma, from Chochma, as we learned in Tanya, that Chochma and Bina are called Ava'im, right? Which give birth to the Midas, and the expression of Tainug is where? In Bina, in the Nukva. So that's one. So again, we find that that Atik. So over here, what's the point? The point is that Atik finds expression where? In Bina. So again, the idea that Torah at the level of Mochin, which is Chochma and Bina, so now focusing on Bina, you will find the expression of Tainug in Bina. That's why it's appropriate to use the term Sha'ashuim when we talk about Torah at the level of Chochma and Bina. The Eitzais, another point. It's a little Kabbalistic here, but nonetheless, it'll become clear what the Rebbe's point is. Another point, how Tainug is related to Mochin, to the intellect, specifically to Chochma, because the beginning of the revelation of Tainug and the essential Tainug, pleasure, is specifically in the level of Chochma. Shezehu shetzahavu ponov shel Rababo kishemotzet esefta chatata. The Yerushalmi says that there was a sage, his name was Rababo, and he found a new Tesefta, a new kind of, it's not a Mishnah, it's called Tesefta, but it's from the Tanaim. He found a new Tesefta, and he was so excited by this, it had such an impact on him, that his face actually became illuminated, bright. The Inyan Tesefta Chadata Meir ala Chidush v'hamtzah. What is the idea of a new Tesefta? This points to a new innovation, something that you find. Shezeu Inyan HaChochma, which again is what? The idea of Chochma. What's the idea of Chochma? In Sfiris, the first point, it's the Hamtzah. It's the first point of that spark of that new innovation as it arrives in the form of a spark, right? So therefore, we see that Tainug, as the Yerushalmi expresses it, when you find something new, when something new comes about, that causes the idea of Tainug. It causes Tainug. So therefore we also see over here that what? This is actually why Tzav upon of Rababo, why his face lit up, because he experienced Chochma. He experienced Chochma in action, meaning what? Something new, which caused him the idea of Tainug. So again, we see that Tainug is connected to Chochma. This is also the idea of Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden. It's known. Also, this is from Chassidus. From other places in Chassidus, Shechochma nikras b'shem Eden. The word Eden is a reference to Chochma. Or Bina nikras b'shem Gan Eden. Bina is a reference to the Garden of Eden. So there's Eden and there's Gan Eden. It says in the pasuk in Chumash, "V'nohar yotzei mi Eden lahashkes es hagan." So we have three things. We have Eden. We have the river coming out from Eden to irrigate the garden. Generally called Gan Eden because it's a catch-all phrase for Mochin, for Chochma and Bina.
So the Chochma goes out to the garden.
Precisely. For although, really and truly, if you want to get technical, Bina is really what? The river, concerning which, concerning Bina, it says that the river exits, comes out from Eden to irrigate, to water. The garden, which would mean the Nohar is higher than the level of Gan, because it it waters the garden. This itself tells us what? That Bina is not the level of Eden. It's merely the river that exits, that comes out from Eden. What is Chachma? Chachma is Eden. Let's just go through the technicalities with Peter Shamilis. Hurry up. This is all because Torah is rooted beyond Chachma. Therefore also, as it is at the level of Chachma, and also as it comes out from Chachma, meaning it's already revealed, it's Chachma and it comes down from Chachma into Bina, Yesh ba'inyan Sha'ashuim, embedded within it you have what? This idea of Sha'ashuim, Tainug, the level of Torah as it is, beyond Chachma and the level of Keser. Bottom line, what's the sum total of all of this? That Amen is a reference to Torah as it is bound up with Atzmos, the very essence of Hashem. When the pasuk says Sha'ashuim Yom Yom, this is a reference to Torah as it is at the level of Mochin, Chachma and Bina, and it makes sense. It's appropriate to use the term Sha'ashuim, which denotes Tainug, because within Torah as it is at the level of Chachma and Bina, you also have the inyan of Tainug, because it comes from beyond. What does the pasuk go on and say? Then the pasuk goes on and says, playing before him at all times. This is the level of Torah as it's drawn down and comes down into the level of midas, into the emotional attributes. This is the idea of at all times. What is time? Shehu began that is man ve'es. It's within the bracket of the confines of time and time periods. It's ace, but it's connected to time, but it's in a way of time that it's b'chol ace at all time, but without change. What's time? Sheishes Yomim also we learned is what? The midas. So therefore, this is the level of Torah as it is at the level of midas. The other two levels we'll have to leave, I guess, until after Pesach. Or if we're going to learn a Chalamed, we'll stop over here.